Okay, morning everyone. Thank you for joining our SME Advice webinar. My name is Omega Fumba. I'm part of the content team here at SME South Africa. And today we have an incredible guest, Asanda Makabuga. She will be speaking on the topic of how to grow female representation. So she will go through her presentation. Then at the end of the session, I will allow you guys to send some questions, or you can send them during the session actually, and then I will address them to Asanda at the end during the Q&A session, and she'll answer those questions. So Asanda, over to you.
Hi, sorry, I don't know what I did there.
Oh,
Yes, I don't know what I did there. I need to go back to my slides. Karabo,
I see it. I think you can just click there.
where? Here.
SME advice, yes. Isn't that presentation there?
My bad. What's my screen? No.
I can see your screen.
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Oh, you can see
Then
my screen.
there are two files showing there. There's yeah, the second one.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sorry, technology. All
It's okay.
right. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Asanda Makabuka. I am from a small town, Mtata. And I don't know why I agreed to this. I always, struggle with these things, but it's important to put ourselves out there, right? And thank you to SME for inviting me. And I think them believing that I do have something to share. So thanks, Omega. But yeah, so I think I'll start and not waste anyone's time. But and as I said, look, I'll just do me. I think doing me always works for me. Just being candid and, you know, chatting and like, sharing my experience of things. I did put together a presentation, so yeah. So I think the topic is okay. Why is it not moving now? Okay. Ooh, wait. Sorry, my slides. Okay, there we go. All right. So, I mean, the topic is, growing female representation, but I think, my space is mostly franchising. So I will be speaking more about that. Um, and I think one day we should actually discuss, women queer, how to grow women queer representation. But that's another topic for another day, I guess. So yeah, when you walk through a mall or a township high street, right, you'll see a lot of women behind the counter, and those people keep the franchises alive. Today, women own 40% of retail franchises in South Africa. I mean, that's definitely progress, right? Um, but here's the paradox, though. South African women believe in their business skills more than the global average clearly does. Yet franchisor ownership has been stuck at 30%. If you look into South Africa, that number is way, 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 way less. And that's definitely a problem that obviously needs to be addressed. And why does this matter? It matters because women bring exact skills and exact skills that franchising actually needs. We bring resilience, multitasking, empathy, and grit. And I mean, that's truly what you need to grow a franchise business. um, Barriers holding women back. So what is it that is holding women back? I mean, if we're being real, these barriers are pretty, pretty, pretty stubborn. It's taking a while to knock them down. It's been years. I mean, we talk about 30 years of democracy, but women legacies and in global economies, it's been forever, right? So capital. I think capital is one of the most fundamental and remains the biggest roadblock. Many women with great ideas cannot access funding at all. Um, there's so many of us who are bootstrapping. I particularly bootstrap for so long, and I always joke and say to my family, well, it's not a joke, but everyone's money is in it. You get 10,000 from this person, 100,000 from this magazi and this aunt, and whatever. So capital is a stumbling block. Um, and then obviously there's the work and life balance. The franchise model is actually perfect for women juggling these roles. But social norms will still tell you, that it's still a man's game. And that's, yeah, that's not entirely the truth. And it's not just about money. Without the networks and mentors, women in rural or small towns struggle to even start. I was, and specifically speaking about this, I was someone who was I was tired of being mentored. There's research that female entrepreneurs in South Africa and in the world actually are the most mentored. We are over mentored. We're not, and our male counterparts are given money to flourish. And I particularly was very pedantic on this, and I hated it. Like, everyone you meet, it's like get into an incubator. I hate being incubated. Please don't incubate me. And but the value of it after I went into a program that literally changed my life. And I'll be speaking about that. I completely believe in it. So, without networks and mentors, women in general, not even in rural areas or small towns, but I speak on small towns because I am from, a peri-urban area, who then Jimmy comes to Joburg and tries to make it, right? So we do struggle to start. And at the end of the day, women are often carrying, both the business and the household, which, I mean, that's a double load. Women are, I think there was a research done recently that females, I think there's 60% more females in university pursuing university degrees than males. So you're pursuing a university degree, I mean, you have a household to take care of, and yet you also want to run a business. So that is quite a big load. Um, uh, Proven strategies that work, right? There are definitely some good news. These barriers are used correctly. These barriers can be turned into building blocks. And I think if I speak for myself, and most women entrepreneurs, everyone can say, they used these blocks as, to build with. Mentorship changes absolutely everything. Early exposure doubles the likelihood that a young woman becomes an entrepreneur. I've been blessed enough, and this is the I was part of Grindstone. Grindstone. I remember how I landed at Grindstone and this mentorship program for 6 months. It was purely, I think it was just God. I was invited to a talk at NASPA's, invited to NASPA's to do a Women's Day talk. And during the talk, I, candidly say, I am so tired. I'm like, this is the platform. If I don't tell Putty that I need money, I mean, who else can I tell, right? Because that's the right room. So I then mentioned, I am so tired of being mentored. We need money. Worst case scenario, and I mean, half of this financing is, these banks is insured. Give me money and let me figure it out. And Naspers at the time was doing this program with Grindstone, called the Naspers Grindstone program. And she was like, do you want to be part of this program? And I even thought to myself, I was like, did this woman not hear me? Because I just said I'm so tired of being mentored. But I was like, okay, well, I've got 6 months, right? What's the worst that can happen to me? 6 months of my life, what's the worst that could happen? And being part of that program completely changed my life, my family's life, and my business. That program, what it then did for me was access to markets as well, access to the networks. I mean, I remember sitting in a room with a gentleman that was part of the marketing team for Levi. I was then put in touch with someone who was part in the early stages of growing Nando's, and having those conversations. Now you can actually, this dream that you're building and this dream that you have, chatting to those people, you can actually see it in real life. And MIC and Grindstone program completely changed my life. And now recently, I was part of the MIC program where they funded black business and my female owned business, and my business was the first one to be funded. So there are things like that that are happening currently and are changing our lives as women entrepreneurs. So, and it's also speaking to fair financing. No one is giving a handout. This is what I'm, going back to the MIC and grindstone. Fair financing, and fair. I mean, for us, it was they bought a share of our business and investing in me and my business, right? So we're not looking for handouts. No woman is, looking for a handout. Give women access to capital, and they will unlock, the markets. Yeah, we'll unlock the markets that we're not reaching. So just give us the money, and ultimately that's what it is, right? And policy can shift, culture faster. It's very, very important. I mean, the quotas boosted JSE boards, and I particularly feel like franchising also needs things like that to get women franchisors. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think you can do a ChatGPT or Google search. In retail, food retail, I am the only black female franchisor. I mean, this is how many years into democracy? Why are we even say that? The first black should not even be a thing, you know. So yeah, and look, when one woman does succeed in franchising, she doesn't do that alone. She uplifts her family, her staff, and community, and those things are very, very important. Okay, so my perspective, right? Yeah, and if I'm rambling, maybe say something in the comments and say slow down. But you guys are making me pretty nervous. But yeah, look, I think how I see it, right, is as 30%, yes, it's stagnant, but it isn't a failure either, right? It's purely just untapped potential, and there's so much. Platforms like this also are helping drive the conversation, and I hope these conversations are not driven just when it's like Women's Month, August. This is when we talk about female entrepreneurship, but it's something that we need to live by, and and unlock that potential, because there's a lot of potential there. Franchising is a model that is built for women. Um, yeah, it's built for women, and globally, we know that diversity isn't charity. It's a proven driver of returns. So get women in there, and you'll get your returns. So the question isn't whether we should bring women into franchising. It's how fast we can build these models to fit the reality, reality of women. It has to be flexible systems, community driven, and tech enabled. Businesses like that will help women thrive. Um, yeah. Um, and the path forward, what do we need to move forward? Look, I completely believe that if in a year, one could launch, um, and this is what the MIC and Grindstone are currently doing, but I think we need more of those, than just having, this one entity that Asanda knows about, these two entities that are doing this. But there has to be a lot more of that. We launch mentorship financing plus minus 100 women led franchises. I also happen to be a member of the Franchise Association of South Africa. I sit on the membership committee of the Franchise Association of South Africa, and these are actually the platforms where this has to be driven, where we drive this policy and make sure these things are out there, right? So in the next 3 years, you move from female, you could definitely move female representation from 30% to 40% and beyond. And long term, I mean, we need innovation hubs where women franchises are incubated and accelerated. And yet again, I still maintain, yes, incubators, but programs like the MIC and Grindstone, what they have, it's not just an incubation. Government has a lot of these things, which is completely annoying. But it's not just that. You are given access to markets, you are given the funding, and it actually improves, who we are. More than anything, I think mentorship is one of those things that you need to be able to stress test your own ideas. You need to be able to look in and see your own flaws, and programs like that really, really help in building sustainable entrepreneurs. Um,
Asanda,
yes.
I just want to give you a quick break from the presentation and ask
Sure.
you a question that popped up,
Yeah. Yeah.
You were talking about earlier on, you were talking about how sometimes you just got tired of the mentorship programs and
Yes.
you were like, just give me money. Yeah, but and
Yes.
then eventually an opportunity came up that was actually helpful. So how would you advise other women how would you advise them to assess what kind of mentorship program would actually be helpful for their entrepreneurship journey?
That's a very good question. Look, and the honest to God's answer, as I said to you, I was sitting at NASPERS. They say they're doing this. And for me, it was just a gut. And it was literally one of those, I have 6 months, right? What is the worst that could happen? It's either it's going to be worst 6 months of my life, a waste of time, or it could be great. But I think, in hindsight and assessing there's a lot of drivel out there. We know the typical talk, and I don't want to necessarily push it to government, but government institutions, what the topics are, that the traditional topics. So it's obviously looking at what these incubation, these mentorships actually offer. Does that fit with what you are looking for as well? Are the topics different? I mean, with Grindstone, it was completely different. And when we met with them, and even getting on, it was you applied and you did all of these things. So it wasn't just a matter of we're taking 100 women, come, let's go. And as a business person who knows because we all know what we need in our fields. So you know what you need. So you can assess the mentorship program and be like, I've heard this before. This is the
Yeah.
same old stuff that I've heard, but this is different, and therefore, jump on it. But also, besides the technical answer, listen, when you're growing a business, this is your life. What do you have to lose? You might look at something and say, I've heard this before, but you haven't met these people and you never know where that could take you. So also,
That's
I mean, just there's a lot of God in this, man. Go with your gut, and just what's the worst that could happen? I mean, I feel like that's my approach with a lot of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think that's a good answer because sometimes you come across programs and you realize, Buti, this is just a whole lot of CSR. They just following their CSR
Yes.
processes. But
Yes.
sometimes, even though you might not get exactly what you're looking for, you might get networking opportunities, meet a community of other women, other entrepreneurs, and so forth. But thank you for answering
Absolutely.
the
And
question.
sorry, and just to add on that as well, sometimes I think, entrepreneurs are so focused sometimes on the now. This is what I'm looking for right now. But, I mean, I hate networking. I think I was saying this to you earlier. I hate networking. I hate doing these things. But you never know. You might
Yeah.
meet someone that right now, this is not what you need. But because I had a conversation with Omega, I had a conversation with Karabo, and he said this is what he does. One day, that could then be a network that you can tap into. So taking advantage of these things and not looking just in the now and looking, holistically and looking forward. You never know when, an Omega will come in handy and be like, I remember meeting someone who mentioned this. So take advantage
Yeah.
of, all the opportunities because you really never know.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I hope you remember where you left off your presentation.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we were pretty much at the end though, as well. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, but look, I think one thing in my presentation, what I did want to drive and what I wanted to stress was that as I said, we need to have long-term visions when we're looking at these accelerator programs. And long term, they yield amazing results. You need to be open as well, as a person. And success is not just about percentage. It's thousands of good mothers, daughters, and leaders building generational wealth. So success is not immediate. Let's not look at it that way. Um, and look, and I think I do believe if we get this right in South Africa, we won't just, we're not trying to just match the global average, but we'll set the benchmarks. And I remember, I mean, that's the presentation, but I remember thinking to myself, when I actually got this topic and the invitation from you guys, this is a very simple question to answer. What do we need to grow female representation? Yes, I've spoken quite a lot about other things, but it's truly, truly simple. Mentorship, finance, and access to markets. That is all we need to actually get to where we need to go. where we need to go to. It's not a long conversation. And I'm not going to sit here because I pride myself at, let's just get to the point. We're not just going to sit here and speak a lot of drivel. We know what we need. And yeah, man. And I think just a parting shot is that, empowering women in business and in franchising is not a side project. It's the next chapter for our growth. And yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to share. I know you probably have speakers that sit here for hours and hours on end, but it's a really easy topic, and the
Yeah.
answer is pretty straightforward.
I mean, quality over quantity, honestly. You don't have to be blabbing for hours and hours as long as you are able to get your points across. I do want you to touch on what you mentioned earlier about the necessity to have discussions around business in the queer community. I just want you to touch a bit on that, on what exactly you meant by that.
Oof, thank you for and Omega. I'll tell you something. It's been happening organically. I don't lead with being queer. I am who I am, and even as women, I even hate this topic, women business. We don't lead with being a woman. We are business people, and that's who we are. But we can't run away fundamentally from your identity, who you are, and how you present yourself to the world, and how they perceive you. I mean, you look
Yeah,
at South Africa, in fact, globally as well. It's queer is still very much, I don't want to say it's a taboo because we're not there, we're not there anymore, but I mean there is no, if you can Google now or go to ChatGPT and say queer establishments that finance queer businesses, you will not find any. You will
yeah.
not find any of that. Where's the queer money? It must go to queer businesses. Are we as queer entrepreneurs also, hiring, because that's also a very, very, very important thing to do. That are we also, and look, as myself, as a Sunday, I ask myself, what am I doing in the queer space? How am I trying to advance that? Because it's a triple-edged sword. You're black female, you're black queer female, right? I mean, if you think it's hard being black female, imagine being black queer, and all of that, and female. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's such a, and I've actually tasked myself as well, that I need to speak more of that. I need to advance more of that. But also, it's, you know, as I said, being female and being queer is, I am a business person first. I'm growing a
Yes.
brand, and that's what matters. But
Yeah.
our voices need to be heard, and you know that needs to be advanced as well.
Yeah. No, I think you did answer my question. And just to touch on what you're saying, I think it definitely starts with you. It starts with
Yes,
entrepreneurs who identify as queer
yes,
to make those spaces because unfortunately, not there aren't many people who don't identify as queer who
yeah,
are going to have open up those opportunities. And I relate to what you're saying in terms of being tired of the whole women entrepreneurship. Like, why can't we just say entrepreneurs? But the reality is there are women who are going on Google and saying opportunities for women.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it has to be phrased that way so that we can reach those people.
yeah.
And I think it's the same as in the queer community. If you want to start
100%.
reaching those people, you need to intentionally have those
And that's the
opportunities.
word. You need to be intentional
Yeah.
about reaching
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Okay,
And
I'm seeing
carve
a
out.
question.
All right. Yeah.
Opindi Nonyane says, do these fund and mentor franchise opportunities only or other business ventures? Um, I'm not ent- I'm not
No, I
entirely
think I
sure.
understand what she's
Oh,
talking about.
okay. Okay.
Look, I think because my topic has been specifically franchising because that's what I do. But I mean, no, they don't actually. So I mean, the MIC and Grindstone, it was. I mean, they fund. It was tech businesses, but just businesses that are scalable. It's not even just the focus. It's just good business. They fund good business and they're looking for good businesses. So don't get it, mistaken. I am specifically talking franchising because chicken bar, and that's the space that I am in. But no, they don't. They don't. And I was actually sitting in, when you sit in, I mean, I think Grindstone initially was a tech, because it was a NASPA's initiative. It was focused on tech. But I mean, look, you look at chicken bar, right? And but we also had tech that we introducing in our business and seeing how we can work that. So you know, it doesn't have to be. It can be any business, just good business. They fund good businesses.
Okay, I think you answered that question well.
Yeah.
You mentioned that obviously you started off bootstrapping your
Yes.
business. It's
Yeah.
I'd like to, okay, Pindi says, great, thanks for answering my question. Cool,
Awesome.
Pindi. So I'd like to know, how would you advise someone on bootstrapping? You know, someone who doesn't even have a auntie or a baba or a boyfriend or a girlfriend to ask for that 10K, like someone who's starting from zero, like what would you say to that
Oh,
person?
that is that is such and there's a lot of that. Look, I don't shy away from it. I've been blessed enough to have parents that really, I mean, I used to call mom the bank. The bank got tired of financing the dream. And it's something that I don't shy away from. I think a lot of people will, the South African narrative. I did it myself on my own. No man is an island. I
Yeah.
was blessed enough to have parents that really supported my dream. In fact, a family that supports my dream. I mean, my mom, helped bankroll. My father did. At some point when we were doing deliveries, the store in Mtata, COVID, my dad was the driver. Had retired and he was the driver, doing deliveries. My sister, my older sister's a chef. She at some point was in the business helping us come out with strategies and menus and how we're going to do this. My brother is a lawyer. He's an advocate. At some point he was standing there and at the till, and looking at my contracts and doing all these things. My sister's doing her PhD. Kawe put her money in there. I mean, my sister took a loan for me to buy my first franchise business. We needed 100,000, and she took out a loan for me. So my aunts, were my cousins. Everyone came to the business and worked. So it's not sometimes, look, if you're alone, I really don't know what, but everyone has a community. And entrepreneurship is such a lonely journey that I think community is very important. So even if it's not, money that you are being given and being supported with, lean in on, what the community, you definitely know someone who is a social media person, right? Ask him to look, dude, I want to do something in social media. Please help me with this. You definitely know someone who is a lawyer. Ask them, look, I've got this contract. Please, can you look at this? So it's very, very important to lean into your community. I don't know if I'd advise asking your boyfriend for money and those things. I mean, if you end up doing that, I think have contracts in place because it changes. I remember my little
Right.
sister when the MIC invested in our business and, they bought a share of our business. Because she had given us money, my little sister then asked, "Hey, it seems like everyone is buying shares here. I feel like I need a structure. Where are my shares? I need to start looking at my investment closely because everyone has invested their time and money. I mean, that's just a joke, but
Yeah.
so, you need to lean into your networks, and you do have them. And bootstrapping is the most difficult thing one can do. But, it's also actually have a 9 to 5. If you are able to have a 9 to 5 and run this thing on the side, not everyone is supposed to, and I say this as well, not everyone is supposed to quit and be an entrepreneur. You can grow slowly. I mean, bootstrap it with your salary. I mean, if you don't have a salary and you can't make calls, to buy, if you don't have money to buy airtime, I think find a job and then let this job assist you in growing this business. Yes, it might take longer, but you will eventually get there. So there's so many ways to bootstrap. It's not about asking, get a job and take some of that money instead of spending that money in the club or wherever, take that money and pay, a karabo who does social media, pay someone who's a graphic designer. And then that's when you're building your business and getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you answered that well. I do have one more question for you, but before I ask, I want to see, does any one of our attendees have another question?
Yeah.
It's quiet here. It's quiet. So was your presentation that good? Good. People are like, nah, I don't need to ask anything.
Yeah, look, I don't know if we can do this, but I'd love to hear. Maybe you can write in the comment section where, some of their businesses, if they're having businesses, and just have an open and frank dialogue about what people do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like these formal settings, but I guess we're limited in what we can do. But it would be really nice just hearing about their businesses and plugging their businesses. I mean, I think there's so many people on this platform. Plug your business, and hopefully Omega will put it out there as well.
No, definitely. We are having conversations around that, in terms of how we can bring more exposure to small
Yeah.
businesses because that's what we do.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
catering for small businesses.
Yeah.
Okay, the question that I wanted to ask you. Sometimes I've thought of having a franchise would be nice, yeah, but I don't wanna do like a McDonald's or like an international popular brand. So what would you say to entrepreneurs who would want to start franchises, but they want it to be authentically South African, like Chicken Bar. Chicken Bar is very
Ah,
authentic,
chicken bar. That's exactly what I'd say. Come
very
here, come
unique.
here.
Buy Chicken Bar, right?
Chicken bar. That's exactly what I'd say. No, but it's actually very important. I mean, I before we started Chicken Bar, and the story of how we started Chicken Bar is a very sad one. We bought into, and this was me also looking into a uniquely South African brand. Exactly that. I didn't want to get into a KFC's. I wanted something that was uniquely South African. We got into a really, really bad business. We almost lost our home. My mom fell sick, and starting Chicken Bar was literally a purpose of saving our home. And what we went through, I told myself that I never want anyone to go through what I went through. So and you don't know what you don't know. So Omega, that's a very, very good question. I am, most businesses, and I advocate for this. You're looking at a new brand, like Chicken Bar as well. Do your research. Are these people a member of the Franchise Association of South Africa? Because it's important for any brand that you get into become a member. The Franchise Association of South Africa, is about ethical franchising. Also read, ask questions. I know you don't know, but what you don't know, and that's why you're getting bad investments. I mean, I literally, almost we bought into Tammy Taylor initially when we were looking for a business, 100%. And we saw the red flags very early, and we were one of the lucky ones to get our money back. But you everything looks glamorous and you're also very excited, but my advice would be calm down, truly, truly calm down. Also, look at a franchise that you are something that you're passionate about. Retail is very, very, very strenuous. Like, there's nothing glamorous about it at all. There are so many other franchises besides food, because I think a lot of South Africans, when you think franchising, you think food, you think KFC, you think McDonald's, but there are so, so, so many, and you will find them. Go to the Franchise Association of South Africa's platform. There are lawyers there as well who deal with franchise or franchise law. Take that, disclosure document or the franchise agreement, take it to a lawyer and speak to someone and say, this is what I want to do. If you're buying a franchise that already has franchisees, go to all those franchisees and have frank conversations, right, about what is going on in the business, and what their experience is very, very, very important. So yeah, I mean, I think knock on the Franchise Association of South Africa's door before. That's the first thing you must do. And now we've got access to information. Asanda's alive, and she'll tell you that no, 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 don't do that. And there's a lot of people that actually approach me and ask me, what do you think of this business? And I was like, okay, these are the questions that you must ask. And yeah, there's a lot of access to information. Go online, do your research. I know it sounds, a typical answer, but it is the truth. Research, 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 and you will then start formulating the questions that you need to ask to make the right decision.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, we have some comments. There is Pindi Nonyani. Pindi's been engaging, guys. No, Pindi needs a gift or something. First she said, I'm very honored to be in this platform. I believe it's an entrepreneur for me. Oh, that's so sweet. And then, okay, she's pushing a business. She says, I'm a startup life coaching business. Love
Okay.
that. Then we have Ulebu Mullo. She says, love that you mentioned it's okay to keep a 9 to 5 and that it will take longer to build your business that way, but it's okay. It's affirming.
Yeah.
Sharikana, I hope I pronounced that right. She says, not a question, but wanted to give thanks. Thank you, Asanda. There is a lot to take away from your presentation. It at times gets tiring, especially all the mentorship without finance, as well as the importance of a community. I'm still working a full-time job and growing 2 businesses on the side, single mom, and everything spread between work, kids, and business. The vision keeps me focused and going. Community support is so important. Just spaces for not only financial supports, but emotional as well. That's
Can
amazing.
we take a moment and just like,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
honestly, that was amazing.
that
That was
is
amazing.
absolutely amazing. And keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. As much as the mentorship without the finances, there's so much growth, man. There's so much growth. Like there are a lot of things that you're gonna learn. And I promise you, it does land, eventually. Eventually it lands. So yeah, keep going and kudos to you. Raising amazing kids and they
Yeah.
learn resilience and all of that from you. So keep going.
Okay, then there's a question from Claire. She says, hi, Asanda. How did you overcome any personal perceived barriers that you perhaps had? Franchising seems so daunting with requirements that must be met.
Oh, this is, Claire, this is such a personal question for me. And I'll be very honest with you. So I was one of those typical, went to varsity and just didn't finish. I went to a couple of universities. I think that's why Chicken Bar has to work because my parents shame, paying all those fees and then but blessed enough to have their support so I can follow my dream. So, personal barrier for me, there's certain levels where, you start getting into and certain rooms that you start getting into. There's certain way that you need to speak. There's certain knowledge that you need to have. People will tell you that, there are a lot of us entrepreneurs where, you say, yeah, everyone, it's like a badge of honor. I didn't finish school and I decided early on after varsity, I'm a varsity dropout, and I'm an entrepreneur. School is important. And for me, the personal barrier was, realizing that and also being very, very okay with knowing what I know and not and the things that I don't know. So it was, overcoming that and being like, I deserve to be in these rooms. One as confident as one is, but there is a lot of, you worry sometimes that, oh my God, should I be in this room? But the more rooms you go into, the more you realize that, you know your business, you know what you're doing, and then your confidence grows. So I think, yeah, man, overcoming it with a lot of therapy as well, maybe just dealing with that. But yeah, look, and being open. That's how I overcome a lot of things. Being open and being okay with I know what I don't know, and
Yeah.
I know what I know. So yeah, I would say that.
Okay. Someone wants to ask the question themselves. Sharilan, I think you're unmuted. You can ask. You can
Good morning,
speak.
Omega. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Asanda. Asanda,
Morning.
thank you so much. I just like to find out, like, okay, funding. I'm playing around with franchising, right? In my mind, not. But the thing is, like, funding is obviously a thing. But what is the other compliance criteria besides the funding? Because I know there's a compliance that needs to be done besides the funding. Can you please speak a little bit about that? Because, like, when people do talk about franchise, they always go straight to the funding part and never to the preparation of the other compliance issues. So what can you please give a little bit like into that, because I don't find enough information on that compliance issue besides the funding. Thank you.
Yeah. Look, I mean, that's industry dependent, right? I can give you an answer, but that's also very industry
Just a
dependent.
generalized answer. That would be good.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah. Compliance, I mean, so you would obviously, it's very difficult to answer this without being industry specific because every industry has their own things. But, you need to have a disclosure document. And I don't know if you're asking compliance on the end of the franchisor or the end of the, so let's interact, please,
Yeah, it
on
means
both.
somebody that's coming into the industry. What compliance do I need for somebody that is like completely new to this industry? What do I need to prepare? What was my
Okay.
preparation?
Well, I mean, so financing is a big one. You need to have unencumbered money. Depending on the industry you go to, you need to do a lot of research in terms of, industry requirements. Also, I mean, just your typical CIPC documentation. You need to have a lawyer. Um, you need to have your own accountants. Yes, you get into a lot of franchises where they promise you, they'll put you in touch with lawyers, they'll put you in touch with, with their own ecosystem. But I really believe you must do your own due diligence and have your own people to help you with that. So, I mean, be clued up about VAT, understand how VAT works,
Mm-hmm.
because that could be a big downfall for a lot of people, how SARS works. And so, if you're, let's say, opening a store, you need to understand what the municipal requirements are to operate that store, because some brands might not help you with that. When they say turnkey, it's yes, they can build the store, but for instance, in food retail, you need to have an acceptability certificate from the municipality. So you need to know how you're going to access that. And so it does vary, but I think the standard would just be your CIPC documentation. But to answer your question honestly, it is industry specific. So you need to look at the requirements of that industry. What do I need to run that business? But just on surface level, I mean, your SARS, your accountants, your lawyers getting those documents into place. Um, Unencumbered money is very, very, very important because you need to have money to run your business. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does a little bit. Another question is around this, like when it comes to the exit, because I know a lot of franchises, like they're up and running and then it fails. What is
Yeah.
the exit? Is there like in your lawyer, do your lawyers set up the exit, or is it like already in the franchises like a document?
Yeah, I mean, you need to read. That's where you read that fine print. The disclosure document. Read that disclosure document very, very, very thoroughly. Read your franchise agreement thoroughly. So it varies from franchise to franchise. It's not a one shoe fits all.
Okay.
So the answers are in your franchise agreement. The answers are in your disclosure document. When you receive that document, and to go back to your question about asking the first question, make sure you thoroughly read that disclosure document. I mean, there was a story about a brand, that was part of Faza. Once I think the brand is called Tasty Gallows, if I'm not, yes, it is Tasty Gallows, the one carte blanche. Once the disclosure document was then perused and looked into, one found that there were a lot of issues. It was a cut and paste from muchachos and all of these things. So you need to read those documents thoroughly and don't get excited. And the answers are in those clauses, how chicken bar works, how, Shirlene will get her money back, how you exit, and then, interrogate those clauses. Because if you don't interrogate those clauses because you're excited, oh my gosh, I've got the money, now I'm buying chicken bar. And the relationship between you and the franchisor is amazing when you start, right? Everyone is
Yeah.
excited. And then once the business, actually, when you get to the business of it, things get difficult. And if you don't know what you're in, then it becomes difficult. So your answer lies in the franchise agreement of
Okay.
whatever franchise you're getting into and your disclosure document.
Just one more question. Just one more
No
question.
problem. Come
Um,
through. I'm here for it.
so tell me, like when the document has been the disclosure document, is that a set in stone document? There's no way negotiation like around like, okay, I don't like is become are or have become has. Is
Look,
there's no way negotiable?
look, a brand like KFC, I mean, big brands, and I don't want to, like, I'm throwing out names or whatever, but big brands, I do assume that, this is their model, this is what works, this is what doesn't work. And this is the beauty I find, and this is not me just advocating for my own brand, but smaller brands like your chicken bars. There is because we're growing this system together, right? And starting and growing this, there is a lot of leeway that you can get away with there. But I mean, it is a document that is done by lawyers. So it to a certain extent, it is still in stone. But these are the conversations then you can then engage your franchisor and say, look, Asana, this doesn't work for me because of it. I mean, get our lawyers involved to see how we can, work around it to suit. And there obviously has to be reasons why things don't work for you. You can't come to me and be like, oh, I just don't like this. I mean, no one is going to entertain that, right?
Yeah.
But if there are plausible reasons and, we sit down with our lawyers and say, okay, this doesn't work because, and you have proof why this won't work for you and whatever, yes, then you have flexibility in newer brands like your chicken bars and things like that. Bigger brands, I don't think so because, you're just a number and it's like, this works, this works, this works, this works, and they've done it and they whatever. So there isn't room for that. But even with them, I guess you can try. I mean, what does it hurt? Say this works and see what happens. And look, ultimately, at the end of the day, closed mouths don't get fed, right? So speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
speak
you
and
you
say,
advocate for South African brands. I just one thing that I want to find out then, like international brands, does it remain the legal requirements in a South African legal framework? They can't like change because they're an international company. The framework is now international. It remains the legal route, remains South African law is like the top law. It remains that. Whatever dispute is
sorry,
happening, it happens in the South African law context.
please just elaborate on that. What do you mean?
So if you're a South African franchise, and obviously like it's a South African brand, it's within the South African law. What I want to know, like, if you're international brand, that remains the law of South African remains the law of South African. You cannot, like, if you're international brand, then you say like, okay, now international law comes into play. It remains the South African law.
You're an entity operating in South Africa, so that entity needs to abide by South African law.
South African law. Okay.
McDonald's coming into South Africa, they need to comply with our laws to operate. So, I mean, obviously, if now we're taking it to the bigger stage or constitutional courts, maybe international law can't be brought in. But I think your first point of call and the first premise will always be South African law because it's South African entities operating. I mean, it's McDonald's, as much as McDonald's is an international company, but it is operating in South Africa, and that entity that is operating here, McDonald's South Africa, is McDonald's South Africa, and therefore they have to abide by South African law.
All right. Thank you so much, Asanda. A lot of questions that I was pondering on my
I like that. Thank you so much. And this is what I wanted, like, just to chat to people. This thing of
that.
Yeah, big behind this, the slides. Thank you. And all the best. What business are you doing? Maybe you can just share a few seconds.
I'm currently in training and development, but I'm looking into set up the next phase of like what is my next second route in business. So franchise has been, but because of the whole obstacles criteria, and it seems there's a lot of information on franchise, but actually there's not enough information around franchises. So yeah. But
okay, so are you going the CETA route? Are you at the CETA route?
I'm going the QCTO route because the CETA route is
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So, well, all the best.
Thank you.
Also, every business that I do enter into the space I enter into. So we, as Chicken Bar, I mean, currently we're accredited with with Food Bev CETA. We are finalizing the QCTO process to, franchise manager.
Yeah, all the best.
So I thank you and all the best to you. And there's a lot of money in training. So take that money and invest it in a chicken bar or something else.
Yeah, you're a brand ambassador for Chicken Bar.
Well, I mean, I own it. So what else can I
do? Thank you so much,
Sherilyn. I'm sorry, I do have to cut you.
Is she on LinkedIn? Is she on LinkedIn?
Yes, she is.
Please follow and inbox me, and so we can chat further.
All right. Thank you, Asanda. Thanks, Omega.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sherilyn's gonna host the next webinar because she has
I believe in her.
Days. And I love that, honestly. We did have one more question in the comments. But Lisa was asking, how long did it take for you to build the business model? And did you know it was going to be successful? And what is your one key takeaway?
Ooh, okay, let's start with the first question. How long it took? Geez, I mean, I think and I always say this, I've been an entrepreneur all my life. That's why the varsity thing didn't. I mean, I got to university and I started an events business. I had a water business at some point. We're doing custom branded water. I then got into security. But the question was, how long did it take to
How
be
long did
successful?
it take? And did you know it was going to be successful? I think maybe she's talking about Chicken Bar.
Yeah. No, I still don't know if it's going to be successful.
Oh, it is successful, Asanda.
I'll tell you the truth. I mean, it is, right? But you also, you don't know. It's
Yeah.
one of those things. You just wake up every day and work and put time in it. And I mean, I started this in 20. We had bought a franchise. We ended up going to the High Court, almost losing our home. That was what, 2017. 2019, I started Chicken Bar. And the only reason I started Chicken Bar was to save our home. So I wasn't thinking about success. I was thinking, okay, let me do this thing. Let me show what these people are supposed to do. Let me do this thing. I need to save my home. My mother's gravely ill. I need her to have something to come back to. And that was how I started. And then as you grow, you obviously, I mean, there's no, I wouldn't put my time and effort into. You need to believe in yourself and believe in what you're doing. But it's such a difficult question to answer. I mean, I completely believe in my abilities. Listen, I'm a billionaire. um, I believe in it. It's going to happen. And we're going to grow this brand into an international brand. I believe that requires work every day. And God willing. God willing. So yeah,
Yeah.
what was the last? I think there were three.
She had said, what's your one key takeaway?
Okay, from one key takeaway from starting the business, just start. Um, I think with everything, just start and just do. I mean, Nike said it, just do it. Truly, just get in there, get things done. And what's the worst that could happen? Like, nothing is as worse as yesterday,
Sure.
right? No day is as worse as yesterday. So just keep at it. It can always get better.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, I don't know if that.
Thank you. I think we've reached the end of our webinar. This was a very insightful session, and I loved the interaction that happened. I think we should do that more going forward. And thank you so much, Asanda. Continue doing great things. Don't be afraid of speaking. I want to see you doing webinars and hosting things more, please.
Yeah, I mean, Omega, and how's that? Why? Thank you for letting me change how you guys do things. Uh,
Yes, you took over,
yeah,
hey?
yeah, thank you. But I mean, you guys are so graceful enough to be like, yeah, let's make it what feels comfortable for me. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I told you it's
Uh,
your show, so
Sorry.
I told you it's your show, so we do
Thank you.
things
And
your
thank you
way.
for, but thank you for inviting me. You guys are really special. And to everyone behind the scenes, Karabo and his emails and making sure that, I'm on and just doing the things. I really appreciate you guys on the team. So thank you.
Thank you everyone for participating in this webinar. If you guys need more information on franchising or entrepreneurship in general, there are platforms like SME South Africa and FAZA as well. I'm shocked that Asana didn't push FAZA more,
Good.
which is
Talk
the
about Faza. You see?
Franchise Association of South Africa. Literally, if you're starting from scratch, you can get so much information on there specifically on franchising.
Yeah,
So
I
I wish
said
you guys
that's where
all
they
the
must
best.
knock. That's the door they must go to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All the entrepreneurs here, all the best with your businesses, your future businesses, and have a great day going forward.